Dubai.
It's lively in here, I can tell you that. Kay Harrington, Lizzie Kelly, James Willoughby, my guest for this week's Talking Points. There's Matthew Syed. I invited him on the programme. He is away this weekend, sadly, so he couldn't join us, but he was very courteous in his response. He's not received a particularly good response to the article that he wrote in the Times, James, which for a fine journalist was somewhat under-researched, I think.
That's a fair point. He had a bad day. He probably still thinks it. And also, I don't blame him, because certain high-profile figures in the sport would concur with what he said. Just this, I think this is the most important point the sport's ever faced. This is the sport's Brexit moment. I think it's a test of its ability to think and to present the arguments, because the overarching question that people are not admitting in the whips and the deaths arguments, which are all conflated in one sort of, is racing fair to the horse? If you sit at home and think to yourself that you watch racing all these times, you've bought into the experience, and suddenly you think it's okay for the sake of perceptions, that it's unfair to the horse, that it should be encouraged to give its best with a foam-filled, air-cushioned stick, that's the least of a horse's problems in going out there and performing for us.
And on that, I think there is consensus.
Yeah, big time. Like, people, has Matthew Syed ever held a whip? Like, if you actually hit it on your hand, it's nothing. It really is nothing. Like, jockeys are 9, 10, 11 stone, and they're hitting a 600, 500 kilo animal. Like, that isn't really gonna, if you put that in human terms, like, say, 10 stone, and it's like a 1, 2 stone person hitting you. Do you know? Like, if you put it in those terms, like, how hard are we really hitting them? I
mean, these are all well-rehearsed and well-made arguments, but surely, Lizzie, the point is, how have we got to the point where one of the most eminent, respected journalists, sports journalists in the country, has chosen to just take racing apart with some inflammatory and emotive language?
Good question.
Yeah, I think it's quite bizarre, and this is what I sort of touched on earlier with the social media campaign. I think that a lot of the time we're giving... people are able to have an opinion, which is perfectly fine, but that opinion can be sort of pushed forward, it can gain momentum, and all of a sudden you've got a bit of a movement.
Encourage people to play to the gallery a little bit, and I think that there was an element of that here. We will talk about this a little bit more, of course, but there are several points to get through this week. One of them is Sandown, which has now got its own development plans to build houses around the estate, which, who knows, might come to the rescue of Kempton Park, whose closure was being threatened for an awful long time. This is going to rumble on and on, James.
Yes.
But I mean, the racecourses have got to find ways of, monetising the land that they've got, especially in urban areas. But we're better off having both tracks than none or one, aren't we?
Absolutely, definitely, 100%. Yes, we are. Sandown is one of the best racecourses in the world in terms of the way it shapes races. It presents a unique test to the flat horse and the jumper. And the fact that the sport they're developing it is great for the sport. It should be encouraged. And I hope Kempton survives too, because I think that's got a part to play as well.
Yeah, it has got a part to play. Lizzie, you've been doing an awful lot of work at Newbury and have been for the last year or so, and you've been seeing the whole place develop around you, and it doesn't seem to have made a material difference to the race-going experience.
No, not at all. I mean, but frankly, on the part of Newbury, the fact that they've continued racing throughout their entire development, I think is just amazing. They've had absolutely no sort of time like Cheltenham did, where they had a whole summer of no racing. They've continued going. I think that racecourses have to slightly look outside the box in terms of boosting what they have. They've done a really good job with plenty of homes. It's actually built, furthermore, it's built a community around the racecourse, so you have more people going racing at that particular racecourse as a result, because they've got, a Newbury racecourse community of people actually living on the course, which adds another element. I mean, it might not be the most important element, but it's certainly an element, and I think those people can go racing, they can take their friends racing, and I mean, as a place to live, it's beautiful. You look out of your back window and you're looking over a beautiful racecourse. It's better than looking over a car park, so it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
There you are. Good, well put. Brilliantly put. Southall, or Southwell, depending on where you come from and who you are. is going to be the latest racecourse to install floodlights, so they can just keep going and going and going and going. And now, James, you spent quite a lot of time at Floodlit studying the racing there.
Not recently, but for many years, yeah.
Floodlit racing at Southwell, how's that going to play? I'm presuming this is really effectively just to prolong people's time in betting shops.
Well, I want to represent the small but vociferous minority of punters out there that absolutely love Southwell.
Yeah, plenty of people do.
Half an hour the best surface for betting in this country, because it's the closest thing we have to dirt. Dirt elongates distances between races. It takes the dimension of tactics out of a race to the greatest extent. It produces very reliable times. It's very consistent for the most part in terms of biases. In other words, you never want to be near the far rail, even though some jockeys still haven't worked that one out after 25 years. And I think it's fantastic. So the fact there are floodlights means there'll be more subtle. I think there should be more fibre sand tracks. I know there won't be, because, well, you know, modern surfaces, they say, are better to look after, whatever. But, yeah, I think I'd have it every day, every night, if it was up to me. Some of those horrendous turf tracks, I'd switch some of them, not all of them, the top ones, but some of the minor ones, I think I'd switch the racing away from them and have it at glorious Southwell, where punters love Southwell.
Of course, glorious Dundalk, which is on a synthetic surface rather than a fibre sand, it races under floodlights and very effectively, and it's been a huge success story for Irish racing.
Yeah. It's been absolutely a huge success. Like, you only have to look at the entries on a Monday for the Friday racing. Like, there's always divides each week, and it's great. It keeps probably the little flat trainer going all during the winter and keeps their income, it's our only all-weather track, but it keeps employment in the smaller yards throughout the year.
Do you think there'll be more in Ireland?
There is talk that there is, but there's no real plans yet. It'd be great if there was.
Is there an obvious place for one?
They are talking about Tipperary, that was always on the cards originally, but I don't know, maybe one at the Curragh, near the Curragh, close to us.
There you are, you see.
Last point on this, there's a massive trend in flat racing now towards running the best 2-year-olds on the all-weather.
Yeah.
The last 4 or 5 weeks of racing, maiden, absolutely insane quality. It's like watching Group 1 horses every day of the week. It's absolutely brilliant.
And of course, you'll be able to watch racing from Kempton, from Chelmsford, and from Dundalk on Racing TV from the 1st of January.
I'm really looking forward to so doing.
I know. But you're gone, so it'll be fun.
Well, that's why I'm watching. That's what I'm saying. Don't have to do it anymore.
Now,
spare the viewer.
Gay Kellaway, who's enjoyed lots of success on every surface. She is starting a satellite yard in France. Now, it's been done by various trainers before, but is it a sign of things to come, I wonder? And what does it say about the financial pressures that are being put on trainers here vis-a-vis the return they're getting from prize money? Now, you're someone who spends quite a lot of time in France and racing there. Have you ever thought about having a satellite yard there?
Yeah, we did. Le Morlaix, which wouldn't be too far from Chantilly.
Oh, so you did do it?
Yeah. We felt that it would be a good idea to have a base over there, not necessarily to have horses trained over there primarily, but that we had somewhere to travel to. They could stay for a few weeks and come back. And then it sort of turned into maybe having a satellite yard, etc. For me, I feel that the prize money, it's obviously something that's always brought up, but that's possibly because it's so much better. They have, as everyone knows, a different system, the PMU, money goes back into the actual industry. I just think that if you've got racehorses, no one buys a racehorse to make money. If you do, then you are stupid. But if you are earning enough money back from your...
I'll tell my clients that when I get back home.
If you can make lots of money from races. People coming into the business.
If you are winning races and still not covering much of your training fee, you know, that I just think, you know, we should obviously be trying. Everyone talks about, I'm regurgitating what you always say, because we should be trying to get it to the point where prize money is much, much better, and in France they've done it, and so that is the appeal.
And at least that there is some sort of return for the owner that they're perhaps not getting now. Now, on the French theme,
yes,
we like Jamie Osborne on this show,
we
right?
We certainly do, yeah. We like
do.
Rats as well.
He's good value.
He is, yeah.
But it got a bit out of hand on Twitter yesterday as he served it up to Christophe Soumillon and his pals for not riding in the cold in France at Dover, wasn't it, on the all-weather? Was it Dover? Yes,
yeah,
it was
Dover.
Dover. Now, riders aren't shy of the cold, are they, Lizzie?
No, not at all. I mean, there are days where it is cold, but I mean, I said to you earlier that I think Jamie Osborne almost had like a Kanye West moment.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
Yeah.
Now,
He just emptied his brain.
That's why we need the youth on our racing TV, isn't it? That was a tremendous reference. Yeah, I got a feeling
Jamie Osborne's Kanye West moment.
for my generation, I thought that there was a little bit of an undercurrent of cheese-eating surrender monkeys about the comment, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Sumion's come back with a very measured and sort of sensible response as well, which is kind of only
I'm riding out this morning, and I'm going to Lyon today, and so I think he might have put Jamie back in his box just a little bit, though.
But they are two of the more engaging characters in the sport, aren't
right.
they?
Absolutely, we want more of this, not less. One of the themes that racing struggles with is that no one really gets custard pied like they do in other sports. You know, that no one is the fall guy. Everybody emerges with their...
Everyone's great, aren't they?
Yeah, that's
Kay
right.
Harrington's great, Lizzie Kelly's great.
This is my point about... I'm sorry if I put it in an abrasive way, but that's my point about riders. When the riders face very, very, very little criticism compared to footballers or other sport, and they invariably...
Kate's not so sure, I can see it.
Compared to other sports they do, invariably they rear up the moment that they receive it as well. So I think we were a lot better off if we could give and take a lot more. Certainly if you're a journalist, you have to get used to it. As I was explaining to my daughter the other day when she said a teacher had a go at her, and she said, why don't you ever get upset when people have a go at you, Dad? Because obviously she reads everything on the internet. You know, your children will be the same. But, you know, and they said, who cares what people say? You know, once you've heard it all once, it doesn't matter. And some riders need to rise above that. They need to be able to not underline what these idiots are saying about them, but just move on. No one really thinks that they're half
my 8-year-old daughter said to me this morning, when does Luck on Sunday finish? And I said, 11:30. 11:30. And she went, no. When does it stop?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm making an effort to help your daughter in this regard.
So I said, we'll roll on till March the 31st, and then we'll have a break, and then we'll do some more later. And she went, no. When does it actually end? The whole thing.
When do you stop, Dad?
Oh dear. Well, one man who has stopped. He stood down after I think 11-year tenure, which is a long time at the Racing Post, Bruce Millington, and he has been succeeded by Tom Kerr, who will be a guest on the show very soon, I'm delighted to say. 31-year-old Tom Kerr, big job for him. You're the editor of the Racing Post, Lizzie. What direction do you take it in?
Good question.
What editorial direction do you take it in? Who's it for? What's it for?
Great question. Come on, Lizzie.
I think it's got a lot of... It's had a lot of bad... sort of results, or not results, but a lot of people haven't liked the stories that they've run, especially on the front pages. I think we've got to try and find the good stories. I actually did read a really lovely story in the Bloodstock section the other day about Camilla Sharples and her story. More about people, more about the stories within the sport, as well as obviously all the actual form and statistics and
Does it sell? Does it sell, do you think?
Does it sell?
Does that
I
sell?
think in this day and age, with the fact that people buy less newspapers, it's a struggle. But to be fair, they have the same stuff in all their, like, on the internet. So, you know, whether you're buying your membership online or you're buying the paper every day, then obviously you're still getting the same stuff. One thing I would quite like to see was it to be a little bit cheaper.
Well, that's not going to happen. Who is your reader? Who are you writing the paper for?
I think you're writing the paper for, well, obviously it's kind of your punters, people going racing, but you want to give them, the kind of unknowledgeable people, you want to give them more insight into what's actually going on behind the scenes, because they go to the races, they see what's happening that day, and they're probably buying it to go betting, so they've got all that information. But maybe, yes, like you say, have that story about Camilla Sharples and her pointers on how she's making money out of it, the industry,
and surely good tipsters.
Yes, good tipsters, exactly.
Is another fairly significant plank of this, isn't it, James?
We can't do this in 2 minutes.
No.
Tom
No way. I'm not even going to try. Okay. Newspapers are a very, very challenging environment. Trainers are very quick to give advice to newspaper editors, but they're very, very slow to take it from journalists. So take a walk in someone else's shoes. The newspaper environment is very, very difficult. and has been for the last 10 years. There are great pressures on newspaper editors to do various things. There are commercial imperatives as well. It's all very well from your ivory tower at home to say, you know, don't give a favourable mention to this, you know, don't take the standpoint of some commercial entity. If you were the editor of the Racing Post, you'd face the realities of running a newspaper. It's very, very difficult.
And that probably explains why it is a job for someone who is in the early part of their career, who's brave and bold and has got fresh ideas, and they can.
He needs to sort out. We need to hear from Tom Kerr what he actually thinks about the whip. What he thinks about the whip, not dodging the issue, but what he thinks, because what he thinks is going to be massively important for the sport. So not what anybody else thinks, what he thinks.
He will be on this show very soon, I can promise you that. Right, we're going to talk about the Cheltenham Review a lot, but I want to include in this section Kate Harrington. You've touched on this, you've touched on your reservations about the BHAs. James, hold that document up and just show the level of research that's gone into that. Surely it is the right thing for the BHA, when there is a spate of fatalities, to investigate it properly.
Exactly.
And thoroughly.
No, exactly, and they have to be seen to be doing well for the sport. But, like, reducing field sizes and putting in, veterinary inspections before the race, they are saying that the trainers aren't competent enough. Are the trainers not competent enough to see that their horse is fit to run in the race? Their owner has been paying that trainer to get the horse there, and then you're going to get to the races, and the trainer, the vet inspections are going to say, no, this horse can't run. Like we saw it at the Breeders' Cup this year.
Polydream.
Yeah, Polydream didn't run. The horse has offset knees, and Freddie Head said that's the way it's always trotted its whole life. Like, you could maybe trot up a whole load of rugby players. They mightn't trot up sound before they go out and play a big rugby match. And then also about the ground, they had...
But one egregious error in a foreign country, if indeed it was an egregious error, shouldn't be taken as a guide as to how it's going to play out here, should it? I mean, surely we're assuming that the vets are going to be irresponsible when we know that most vets on a racecourse are very responsible.
They are responsible, but I know we have a few horses at home that are a bit pottery, and they will warm up, but they warm up to the job, but like they mightn't trot up sound. So then now they're going to be horses, but they're absolutely fine. They go out and they win races day in, day out, but that is just how they are, and there's nothing we can go about that. The owner might have been able to afford that horse at the sales because he was a little bit of a crooked in front or something, but the trainer is doing such a good job to keep that horse sound to run. Why do we need these vet checks?
Well, I've given you the last word because sadly we're saying goodbye to you now. Brant Dunshay is going to join us very shortly, but Kate, thank you very